discuss about the society, we find that there is almost a consensus among the traditional historians, and this is also supported by the recent historians as well, that the South Indian society saw a very significant change. There was a disjuncture in the social aspect, which is manifested in different aspects, different sides, like rise of a new type of kingship. The Chakravarti model of kingship now takes place in polity. In society, we find the older society as manifested in the classical literature. Particularly, we can here cite the sources like the Sangam texts. The society that was depicted in the Sangam texts, there was a significant change when we come to the Pallava period or the Chalukyan period. Then we find that there was a growing very significant role of the Brahmin establishments, the Agraharas, the Brahmadeyas, and they were playing a very significant role, particularly in the educational aspects as well as the religious aspects. Then we find in the religious field rise of the Bhakti movement, the South Indian variant of Bhakti movement, particularly the Shaivite and the Vaishnavite Bhakti, and finally the rise of the temple institution. Temples become visibly large, as well as their role also becomes multifarious, variegated, taking up large areas of culture, for instance, dance, art, architecture, even education and other parts of the social life of the local people where the temple was located. Everything was being dominated, everything was being controlled by the ritual aspects of the temple. So, in many senses, it has been seen that the Pallava Chalukyan period from 600 to 900 AD can be demonstrated as a period of a sharp structural change. But here we should come up with a alternate view as well, that rather than talking about the disjuncture, the disjunctive feature of the South Indian society or polity, it was particularly a conjuncture in the sense that older elements remained which were then suited to the new challenges that were coming up in this period. When we are talking about the society, we find that in the classical texts, in the Sangam texts, already there was a notion, there was a knowledge of the North Indian, particularly the Sanskritic elements. The Brahmins were known, the North Indian gods, though not very prominent, but they were known, they were alluded to, and the whole society was distributed. The whole social, the temporal space was, the spatial space was divided into 5 types, ecotypes, we can say, the Tinai concept. And there we find that the whole society, whole region, particularly the Tamil speaking region from which we get the Sangam text, was divided into 5 Tinais, that is 1 Kurinji, the hill space or ecotype, then Mullai, the pastoral region, the grassland region, then we have Palai, the desert land, though we very well know that there was no desert in Tamil Nadu, but it is said that if there was a consecutive rainfall failure in the Kurinji and Mullai region, the landscape partook the shape of a desert, which is very true even today also. Then we have the Marudam region, that is the well watered, well irrigated agricultural space, particularly in the riverine zone, and here we can allude to either the Kaveri or the Vaihai delta region in the deeper south. And finally we have the littoral space, that is the Nathal region, dominated by the traders as well as the fishermen or the boatmen. Now, among this fivefold divisions, there was no ritual or hierarchization and ascription of a ritual purity. What is it? There was no distinction between, say, the Ulavars, the peasants, that is, who were residing in the Marudam region, and the Maravars, who were kind of fierce people residing in the Palai region. In the later period, which is also part of the later classical texts, in say Silapadigaram, we find that slowly emergence of hierarchization was setting in. That is, it is said that the Ulavars of Marudam region, and here the names are given, the Vellalars and the Karalars, they will take, or their position in the society will be much higher than the pastoral herdsmen or other people. So slowly, even before the onset of the Pallava Chalukya period, we find that slowly the peasant life based in the riverine delta zones was becoming more and more predominant. But here, as we are talking about conjuncture, we will see that there was no doubt a change in the Pallava Chalukya period. That is, the peasant life, which was there earlier confined in a particular Tinai, that is Marudam, particularly in the riverine delta zones, slowly this peasant life was proliferated in the erstwhile forest or the mountain regions with the help of the tank irrigation. Here the Pallava period is very, very important. We should remember about the important inscriptions like that we find in the Chingalpet district Uttaramerur site, where the large Vairamegha Talag, that is a very large tank, was used for irrigation purpose, and through this irrigational activities, agriculture was then expanding in the hitherto non-peasant regions or areas. There is a period in South India which is known as the Kalabhra interregnum, which falls in between the classical period, that is the period dominated by the the three crowned kings, the Moovendan, the Cholas, Pandyans and the Cheras, fighting with the smaller chieftains, Kurunilamannar, and the rise of the Pallava and the resurgent Pandyans. There is a very significant historical gap between these two features or phenomena, which is generally known in the historical literature as the Kalabhra interregnum. A mysterious people supporting the heretical sects posed a very serious challenge for the peasant people and the peasant way of life. So, historians like Bartonstein say that in the subsequent period, with the rise of the warrior control of the Pallavas, which saw the end of the Kalabhra interregnum or the Kalabhra challenge, the challenge of a non-peasant people on the peasant way of life, and the resurgent Pandyas saw the end of this Kalabhra rule, and this period, the rise of the Pallavas, rise of the resurgent Pandyans was affected because of this peasant Brahmin alliance, which was beneficial for all the three components of this alliance, namely, one, the king, the ruling family, here the Pallavas and the Pandyans, two, the peasants and the Brahmins as well. How this alliance helped all the three. The kings or the ruling families, they were helped by the Brahmins who helped them ideologically, as well as there are some instances like when there was a confusion in the succession in the Pallava family after the death of Parameshwara Varman II, we find a group of Brahmins was part of a delegation who waited upon Hiranyavarman for choosing a scion to this vacant throne. So the Brahmins were playing a very significant role in polity as well, and the Brahmins, they benefited from the proliferation of the peasantry, proliferation of wet cultivation based on tank irrigation, because they depended on the surplus which was then being generated by the proliferation of wet cultivation. And for the peasants who were shell shocked by the challenge posed by the non-peasant people, here epitomized by the Kalabhra interregnum, they found the Brahmin support to be helpful for a cohesive ideological factor.